what questions to ask when you are looking and renting an apartment. Hello everybody, it's me, Lady Burke, and welcome back to my channel. This week's video will be on what questions to ask when you are looking and renting an apartment. Before we continue, please remember to subscribe and click like for more content. So you are on the hunt for a new apartment and you are searching the neighborhood and you want the best place possible for you or you and your family. And what are some questions to ask? So I have a list of questions here that we're gonna go through real quick and discuss each one a little bit. So the first question to ask may seem like super obvious, but it's not as obvious as you would think. The first question to ask when you are talking to a community is, what is the rent? And the reason why that is important is because even if you're looking at an ad online, please remember that in this competitive rental market, the prices can go up at any time. So last week, maybe the price was $1,200 for that one bedroom apartment. Now it's $1,400. So you always are gonna confirm the rental amount, even if you see an ad. The second one is, how much is the security deposit? This is important because security deposit amounts vary. Sometimes it is depending on the credit check and what the credit report comes back. But you can expect a minimum of a security deposit equal to the month's rent. Sometimes it can be higher. So you definitely want to ask those questions. The third question, what utilities are included in the rent? You want to be prepared for this because this is part of factoring the cost of whether or not an apartment would be affordable for you. If the owner pays for all utilities, I'm sure that amount would actually be factored into the rent. So if the one bedroom is $1,400, some of that rent is going towards covering the cost of utilities. Some communities actually bill residents for utilities through a third-party billing company. One of them that I'm very familiar with is called RUBS, which stands for Resident Utility Billing. And so you definitely want to ask about that because sometimes even if you get utility set up in your name, you will actually get a bill from a third-party billing company. Okay. The next question is, what is the parking situation? Now, this is very important. I used to live in Long Beach, and parking in Long Beach, like Los Angeles, is awful. So if you have a car and you work the night shift and you don't want to have to come home late at night, circling for a very long time to find parking, this could actually be a huge deal breaker when you are looking for an apartment. So absolutely ask, and then ask, like, is it an additional cost for parking? Or is the parking factored into the rent? So don't forget to ask about parking. And if you are a family and you have 2 parking spots, you're gonna even wanna ask that. How many parking spots does the apartment come with? The next question is, what is the pet policy? This also could be a very huge deal breaker. If you're like me, pets are our families. It's not really up for discussion. I'm not going to get rid of my pets. So this is also the case for a lot of people that I've spoken to when they're looking for information on a unit that I have available for rent. They want to know, are cats and dogs allowed? So if you have a no pet policy, that is definitely going to be a huge deal breaker, and you definitely want to know that upfront before signing a rental agreement. Next question is, what amenities are included? Now, keep in mind that during COVID right now, there's a good chance that a lot of the community's amenities are closed. For instance, like if a community has a playground for children, that's going to be closed. If there's a pool, that's going to be closed. If it's like one of those luxury apartments where they have like a gym and all this stuff, that's going to be closed. But you're still going to want to ask what amenities are included with this apartment or condo that you are looking to rent. The next question is renter's insurance required? That may seem like an odd question, but believe it or not, this day and age, it's very, very common for management companies to make it a requirement. It's actually part of the rental agreement that it is required for any resident to live here to have renter's insurance. So it is not going to hurt to ask. Renter's insurance is very cheap and you can get it easily like this. but it's good to be prepared. The next question is, what's the process of the application? You're going to want to ask, what are the income credit requirements? What do you need to do to apply? Is it a paper application? Is it an online application? How many days before we get an answer on whether or not the application has been approved or denied? You're going to want to ask, what are the application fees? Now, keep in mind, application fees, you're actually paying for the credit check. You're not actually paying for the application. You're paying for them to do a credit and background criminal report. So that fee can run anywhere from $25 to $50, depending on the company or what program they are using to run your credit. Because remember, management companies go through another company to run and pull people's credit and criminal background report. So depending on what they're being charged by that company, that's what they're going to charge. Okay. Another question that I get a lot, and I think it's a fair question, is will rent ever increase? The answer is yes, of course. The rent is always going to go up to keep up with the cost of the rental market. I think a better question to ask is, how often will the rent go up? What can we expect when we live here? Will it go up at the end of our rental agreement? Will it go up every year when we sign a new rental agreement? These are questions that you're going to want to ask. Then ask, what are the lease terms? Can you do a short-term lease, 6 months or a year? This is also very important. A lot of management companies are strict. It's usually 1-year lease, only because they spend so much money on vacancy turns, especially if you have a nice upgraded apartment. They're going to want to keep a resident in there for a year to get some of that money back. So a lot of corporate management companies are not flexible with the lease terms. A lot of private owners and smaller management companies are a lot more flexible. So definitely ask that question. Then ask, which to me is very important, how do maintenance requests work? I hear a lot of horror stories with landlords not wanting to fix things. And so I don't think that's a bad question to ask. You know, if I have a problem with plumbing or electrical, what is your company's policy on getting things fixed right away? And here's another good question. What is your guest policy? This is important. One of the communities that I oversee is a senior community. And it's very common to have family members come in to visit them, stay with them if they just had surgery, or if you just like having family and friends over all the time, you're going to want to know what the guest policy is. The most common policy is anybody staying in your apartment for longer than 2 weeks is considered an unauthorized resident. So keep that in mind. Now, here's a question that a lot of people ask, but there's a huge legal aspect to this question. A lot of people ask what the neighborhood is like. Is it safe? If the community manager or leasing agent has been trained, please know that they are not allowed to make a comment on the area of where the apartment is. They're just not. They're not allowed to say, oh, this is a great safe neighborhood, and they're not allowed to say this is a bad neighborhood, only because of discrimination laws. A lot of people have felt that maybe this manager didn't want to rent to me because I'm Indian, Asian, Black, or whatever. So that can be considered steering or blocking. This is a legal term that you can look up, okay? So you're not allowed to make a comment. If you're a manager watching this, or if you're an owner, you're not supposed to be making comments on the area. What you can say or let them know is what is in the area, meaning, well, you know, this apartment rental is right next to a school that's only like half a mile down the street. You can let them know if there's a police station nearby, if there's a park nearby. That you can let them know, but you're not allowed to make a comment on the safety of the area. And the last question that I think is really important is, do I need a cosigner? What if you have bad credit? Will they accept cosigners? I worked for a management company that did not accept cosigners. They feel that your credit was so bad, you weren't paying your bills or whatever the situation was, they're not even going to consider a cosigner because there's no guarantee that they're going to get that money. So these are all excellent questions that I think that people should be aware of when they're looking for an apartment. One of the other questions that I absolutely think you should ask is, what is your smoking policy? I've done videos before this, part 1, 2, and 3 series. Smoking affects a lot of renters, secondhand smoke. You're gonna wanna ask if you're very sensitive to that, if you have asthma, please do not rent an apartment unless you specifically ask what their smoking policy is. And that's it for today. I really hope you guys enjoy this. If you have any other questions or any other feedback on what questions should be asked, leave it in the comments below. You can also reach out to me via email. Thank you guys again so much, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.